My name is Calvin Omari, graduate of Strathmore University 2011, where I did BCom and graduated in Marketing and Management Science in 2011. And I've been doing business ever since 2011. In fact, I started business while still at Strathmore. Basically, over the past 10 years or so, I've been focusing on design work and growing my design work, taking advantage of what I learned through marketing to be able to grow my company. So for the audience, I'd like them to send through their expectations through the chat and what they expect to achieve. Then we'll be able to pick out a few things here and there as we continue with the discussion. Currently, my company is called Pulsar Limited, and we focus on design work for corporate organizations. Basically, sort of, we are like a marketing extension for marketing departments, where we enable them to achieve design work and digital communication. That is websites and social media and everything digital. So I'd like to start the session and head over to Angela. Angela, welcome to this session. Maybe you can introduce yourself a bit and tell us what you studied at Strathmore, how this shaped you, how this enabled you to start Sokowatch, and what Sokowatch is all about.
Okay, thank you so much, Calvin. My name is Angela Nzioki, class of 2012, BBAT class of 2012. So I basically started my entrepreneurship journey also while I was at Strathmore. I didn't start Sokowatch, but before I joined Sokowatch, I had started a business and it was called Plus People Kenya Limited. What we were doing at Plus People is that we were building management software for small and medium-sized businesses. And like yourself, pretty much, Calvin, I did start I think in 2011, while I was in my third year of Strathmore. So it was kind of a marriage after my industrial attachment, the industrial attachment we normally have to do in Strathmore. So that actually spiraled or skyrocketed my journey into entrepreneurship. Yeah, so that's kind of a little bit about my background. So currently, I'm the Kenya CEO of Sokowatch. I will talk a little bit more about Sokowatch when we start the conversation. But other than that, I really would like to just say thank you to the entire Strathmore fraternity, because Strathmore has really been a key pillar into making me who I am today. You know, giving me the exposure, giving me the pathways. I did quite a number of internships while I was in school. I remember I used to do the brand ambassadorship, where we would go to high schools to talk to, you know, high school kids about Strathmore and, you know, ensure that they come and join Strathmore. I was a member of Drumsuck. So I participated in quite a number of plays. All those things I would say have largely contributed into making me the business person and the entrepreneur that I am today. Great.
Without further ado, I'd like us to jump right into Sokowatch so that we can keep the conversation going. So maybe you can tell us what Sokowatch does. I heard you've mentioned that you are the Kenya CEO, so you can tell us maybe about your regional operations as well.
Awesome. So Sokowatch as a company, so Sokowatch is a tech and a data company. It was founded in 2016 by Daniel Yu. So Daniel is the global CEO. Our organizational structure is very interesting in that each country does have its own country CEO. So we're now operationally in 5 different countries and almost more than 10 cities. What Sokowatch really does in the market is we've taken the power of e-commerce and given that to local retail shops. So the mission for Sokowatch is really to become the #1 partner for retail shops across of the not just the East African market, but the whole of the continent. So what we do at Sokowatch is we distribute your typical fast-moving consumer goods. Right now, they're all called essential products, product and services. And we use that, and we do that using the technology that we've built. So pretty much your typical duka or your kiosk would place an order of the goods that they need using our app. And we're more and more moving into self-service, so they can either do that through the app, they can do that through the SMS. We're looking to also incorporate WhatsApp. They can make a phone call, and all the goods that they want are delivered to them within the same day and free of charge. So really the value we're bringing to the retail shops is giving them that ability for them to be able to control their own supply chain. Yeah, traditionally, when you look at how a duka works, is typically this duka would either have to close and go to town or wherever, somewhere, and then shop around for the products that they need, and then figure on their own logistics and transport all the way back to the shop. So when you look at a shop like that one, they've incurred quite a bit of costs just being able to move up and down. And then the second thing is that the opportunity missed. Yeah, when you have to close your shop and go somebody else, there's quite a number of traffic that you miss of people that you should be serving at that particular point. So those are some of the bridges that we're serving for customers. We control our own logistics, so we can be able to get to customers regardless of how far out they are. So we go into very remote areas. You will notice that the communities that we serve are typically your very vulnerable communities. It's the Kiberas and the Kawangwares and the Madhares. And we have, agents and salespeople that get into the shops within those regions. We don't leave anyone behind. Any shop that needs goods and services, one way or another, will make sure that they're capable of getting access to these services. And then the other really value add and the very important partner that I would like to mention is all our suppliers. And these are the people that we're getting products from. And the value really we're giving suppliers is being able to give them visibility of their shops or the people that are consuming their products. Yeah. Traditionally, also for suppliers, is they had very limited access to the last mile in terms of how to get their products. So we being a tech company has the capacity to be able to consolidate all the data. We have the capacity to be able to reach a much wider network of shops. And then secondly, we have the capacity to be able to consolidate the data and then feed this data back to manufacturers and suppliers and tell them, look, guys, you think your product is doing well in this particular region, but actually no, it's doing so much better here because of A, B, C, and D. And that's the other value that we, up the supply chain, while at the same time enabling the people much further down into the supply chain that they're getting a really full value.
So basically, what Sokowatch does in a nutshell is connecting the suppliers and the shops or retail shops around Kenya directly to each other, as opposed to the traditional model where guys used to go to town, shop for a few things here and there, then go back to the shop, right? So basically, so that we can understand the scale of your operations, if you don't mind saying, what number of shops do you sort of serve within the region? And I've heard you mention that you connect you connect the supplier and the shop, and you supply for free. So I wanted to find out, what is your revenue model, or how do you access or gain revenue from your current operations?
In terms of our coverage in Kenya, we're actually operating in 4 different towns. We have 2 branches in Nairobi. We're in Nakuru, Mombasa, and Eldoret, and we are serving close to 10,000 shops on a monthly basis. Yeah, so we really have been able to spread very quickly and very fast. But in terms of our total coverage, we are actually serving almost 15,000 shops across of Kenya, Uganda, Rwanda, and Tanzania. Our business model typically is, when you take your fast moving consumer goods, is we do actually buy them from the supplier, and then we mark up the product, and then we do give them and sell them to the shopkeepers. Yeah, so for us it's a margin play, in that we add up a little bit of margin, and then the customers are able to buy from us. And why this is of benefit is because we are capable of giving much more value to the shopkeepers or to the consumers, because you've reduced the number of people on the supply chain, because it's direct from manufacturer to the retail shop. Yeah. And I think you also tried to ask about our coverage and how we are able to reach our customers.
Yes.
Yeah, was that the question? Yeah. So one, we do have typical salespeople or sales agents, and we've been doing this. Started out very direct marketing, yeah, right, being in the field, being in the with the customers, knocking door to door as much as possible. So majority of our distribution is done using tuk-tuks. Tuk-tuks are much smaller, and they can be able to penetrate into much wider regions. So we do have delivery agents that go into the communities and stop shop by shop by shop, and that's how we're able to acquire majority of the customers to begin with. But right now we are shifting more and more into a more cost-effective way of reaching customers, and that's typically through referrals. Yeah, when you get a happy customer, you're more than most customers are willing to refer you to a different customer. We're moving into loyalty programs where we're rewarding our loyal customers, and obviously that's also in an effort to get a lot more referrals from the customers. And then again, self-service is one of the most basic but also best ways for a company like ours to be able to scale. And by self-service, I mean creating technology for end users to be able to serve themselves. So that's through our customer app, through SMS. Hopefully we can be able to get into WhatsApp, and then also through a call center. Yeah, so once the customer get access to our phone number, they can be able to call in and place an order. So that's some of the ways that we're making sure that we're reaching as many people as possible.
All right. So would you say that Sokowatch is a platform whereby we can also define your suppliers as part of people you need to win over onto your model, so that you can be able to maybe gain advantages like credits to or buy in bulk and supply to your end customer? So it's like sort of a two-pronged approach.
Yes. I do like the fact that you've used the word platform, because ideally our vision is to be a global platform that connects different players within the distribution space. So to allude, or rather to just touch on what you're trying to allude at, is yes, the more and more we serve a particular customer, or the more and more a customer orders from us, one of the things that we are doing really well is financial services, is using the customer's order history to be able to tell, or to do a credit rating and say, actually, this is a customer that if we were able to give them credit or goods on consignment, they can be able to grow their shop. Yeah, and there's normally, whenever financial services are involved, one of the things I always recommend is to make sure that there's a lot of also financial education that comes with it. Yeah, because majority of how we run business in Africa is most people look at credit as a way to substitute either their cash expenses. Yeah, and I always tell people, or tell a shopkeeper, if at any one particular point you find yourself substituting your credit orders for your cash orders, then you're actually running yourself into the ground. Yeah, how you should always use financial services is for growth. Yeah, so if you're capable of running a small kiosk, how do you utilize the financial service to run a wholesale? So that's one of the ways that the shopkeepers are able to plug into our platform. Same thing with the suppliers, like you mentioned, they're capable of plugging into the platform and being able to get access to the data of how their products or particular products are faring into the market.
All right. I can see that Sokowatch has quite a bit of advantages for the shopkeeper. Glad I'm learning quite a bit on that end. But let's go more on the customer acquisition side. And you mentioned that you do referrals and used to have a direct sales approach. Would you delve more a bit into this, how you acquire customers and whether there are other methods used to acquire, and what are the costs like in terms of acquiring one customer, and maybe using the revenue model you've given, how long till a customer breaks even for you?
So in terms of the customer acquisition, I feel like that's normally a very important aspect of any business to really focus on, because for you to grow, you need to really manage your customer acquisition cost. So the first thing, like I said, that we started out with, especially around 2016, was direct marketing. Yeah, so going into the field and registering as many shops as possible. And a model like that one is very capital intensive. Yeah, but what the really good thing that we did back then is that we were able to map out quite a number of shops. Yeah, so currently, majority of our customer acquisition is actually centered around retention and reactivation. Yeah, I know retention doesn't typically sound like acquisition. Yeah, but for me, it is acquisition, because the more you retain and the better you retain your customers, the likely chances one, you're guaranteeing future business. Yeah, because this shop will likely chances grow. And then the second thing is also you're building a pipeline of shops to refer you to other shops within their communities. Yeah. So, and that's one of the ways that I think we've done really, really well. Our efforts towards retention have been quite excessive. Yeah, for lack of a better word to use. And then the second one is reactivations. Yeah, like I mentioned at the very beginning, we did spend quite a bit of time mapping out a number of shops. And in a business like ours, churn is something that happens very quickly and at a large quantity. So always going back to the initial stages and figuring out why did we lose this customer, and is this a customer that I can be able to solve their problem now or correct my mistakes, and make sure that they actually become a customer that is retained. So reaction has been one of the things that we've done really, really well. The third thing I mentioned is obviously the referral efforts. And the referral efforts revolve around rewarding and paying attention to all our loyal customers. Yeah, who are our loyal customers, and how much time and effort are we spending with them to ensure that they are talking about us, especially positive, to other people. Yeah, so that's been one of the ways that we really, really are trying to acquire new customers. Very recently, we've also tried to utilize a couple of brand ambassadors. And the brand ambassadors, again, I like the brand ambassadors model because it's one of the ways that I did start my career. Is getting, for me, it's our way of giving back to community as well, because we're utilizing university students, giving them an opportunity to start building a career profile, because they don't need any experience. They don't need pretty much anything to be able to go and talk to a shop. And also for us, from a talent management perspective, it gives us an opportunity to be able to tap into this talent in future. So brand ambassadors is one of the other ways. And then the last one is community engagement. We really do quite a bit of community engagements, and we've created WhatsApp groups for different communities that we are serving. And we put effort into engaging the community, not just from a transactional perspective, but also from a personal relationship. So focusing on the relationship building, making sure that we're addressing issues. Take, for example, when the COVID-19 pandemic hit, yeah, how quickly were we to respond within our Duka communities to make sure that we're communicating to them that we're here to support, after all this is said and done, we're still going to be here to support you. So quite a bit of community engagement. And then the last one is frequent visits. We do visit our shops quite a bit quite a bit of the time. And we recommend that everyone, regardless of how high up the ladder you sit, that at one particular point, do visit the shops. Know how these shops are faring, have a conversation with the shopkeeper, try and understand the business, because the different insights that we get from our customers are capable, or is what is enabling us really be able to build up on where we are from. Yeah.
All right. You mentioned retention, and I like the fact that you're focusing on retention, because many businesses do not know that retaining a customer is almost as equal as gaining a customer.
Yeah.
So I'd like just for you to focus a bit there, because I know retaining a customer, you are guaranteed of a long lifetime value, of which you can gain a lot and build relationships with the customer and decrease your customer acquisition costs in the long run. Maybe you can focus a bit on what it is you do so that you can retain your customers.
So what we do for retention efforts is we do have a call center. Yeah, so we have a call center, and the main role of our call center is really to make sure that they're reaching out to our customers on a daily basis. Yeah, there are customers that we actually call every single day. And more, we're getting to the point where we're trying to retain our customers almost on a weekly basis, going through our entire call list or on a weekly basis. So basic as we reach out to them. So let's just start from there, making sure that we've reached out to all of them, each and every one of them. It doesn't matter how big or small an order customer makes. If they're our customer, we will put an effort to be able to call them. So that's just step one. And then step two, when it comes to retention, moving away the relationship from a transactional perspective. Yeah, because a lot of customers, when they see them as just how much money they mean to you, yeah, then you likely chances will miss out on an opportunity. If somebody comes and disrupts your space, or a competitor comes, you will lose that customer very, very quickly. Yeah, so one of the trainings that we do for our call center and our salespeople is, how do you relate to this customer? Not just from, how much, or what the order size is it that they're going to give you, but how well do you know them? Yeah. So, and when it comes to customer data, the way we're collecting our customer data is we always make sure we know the name of the shop. We always make sure we know the name of the customer. And we always make sure that we are registering the customer history. So if I'm a call agent and I'm picking a call and I'm talking to Calvin, I know last time when I talked to Calvin, these are the issues that we talked about, or this is what Calvin ordered. So also even knowing what is Calvin's frequent order, yeah, and what is Calvin also missing out on his basket, and how can I suggest things that Calvin would need. So kind of customizing every call to a particular customer, so that they also feel like, oh, okay, this is a customer that really, really appreciates and knows me. And then the third thing that I think now we need to get better and better at is rewarding our loyal customers. Yeah. Appreciating their efforts, appreciating how long they've been with us, making calls. Funny story, there are some incidences where if we get, my direct manager calls it the CEO call. If a customer, is having troubles, there's sometimes that I would call a customer and say, hi, I am the CEO of Sokowatch. I hear you're facing, certain challenges. How can I be okay? Yeah. And Daniel, even our global CEO, yeah, that's true. Daniel, our global CEO, sometimes even creates videos that we share with our customers, where, he's just coming and saying, hi, the global CEO of Sokowatch. We are very happy and glad that you're our customers, and we appreciate your business. So coming back and saying, we appreciate who you are. We appreciate the journey that you've chosen to work with us. If you ever have any challenges, please let us know. So for me, when it comes to retention, is, the one thing I will always say is move away from the transactional and really look at a customer as, who's this person? How can I be of help to them?
I can see someone in the comments saying that you should venture into fresh produce, vegetables, fruits, farm produce. Is it something in the works, or it's something you're currently doing, connecting farmers and the shop? Because I believe most shops do sell a bit of vegetables.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's something we're doing right now, or it's something we're planning to do long term. Case an example, well, fresh produce is a whole supply chain on its own, and even the storage requirements are very different. Yeah, for fresh produce, you do need cold storage, something we haven't looked at yet. And for us, the FMCG space on the continent, it's almost a $200 billion business, yeah, and we've not even scratched the surface, yeah. So before we move into a new space, we are trying to just focus on the space that we're currently in and making sure that we're serving everyone, yeah, or serving as much as possible before we ever decide what else can we get into the same distribution space. What we will and we are constantly doing is adding on to services that impact these customers directly. Yeah, and I mentioned our financial services. So that's a product that's directly linked to the distribution of your essential goods. Yeah. Enabling a customer be able to increase his order size by giving them goods, on credit. Some of the other things that we're also venturing into is healthcare, healthcare services, yeah. And this came from the interactions we have with our customers, because we realized there are situations where a customer, has been placing orders and then they stop placing an order. And when you have a conversation with them, you realize they actually got a family emergency and they had to spend majority of their money. Yeah. So that for us becomes an opportunity of unlocking potential for this shop. Yeah. So how can I solve his problem? Yeah. But if somebody else is solving the fresh produce, let them solve that. But if there's no one solving a particular problem that this customer is facing, now that's where we get really, really interested.
All right. I'm sure now, guys, sort of get the scale of operations, how you acquire customers, and how Sokowatch generally works. And you mentioned somewhere the COVID-19 crisis or pandemic. How has it impacted the operations of Sokowatch? And yeah, just generally give us an outlook on that.
Oh, yeah. So I think that the pandemic hit everyone. Nobody was prepared. Nobody, could have even imagined how big it was going to be. But I would say for us, how that has impacted us is really realigning or bringing us back to the table and saying, what is it that we ventured out to do? What was our mission and what was our vision? And how true are we being to our mission and our vision? Yeah, and we've been lucky about the fact that Dukas were classified as essential service providers. So Dukas didn't close, so they stayed open. But what we observed with a lot of shops is that their buying capacity also reduced, obviously because a lot of people lost work, and the people, especially the people within the communities, they couldn't be able to spend as much as possible. And we realized that a lot of, product purchases shifted to really the basic commodities, your flour, your sugar, your rice, and all the other things kind of became nice to haves and not must haves. So for us, just going back to the table and saying, how are we guaranteeing the supply of these commodities to the shops to make sure that they never miss out on those opportunities, and even the little money that people have remaining, they're capable of getting access to that good. And then the second thing that I think we did or we've done really, really well during the COVID-19 is we launched a new product called the Essentials for Everyone. Yeah, so the Essentials for Everyone is a food voucher program, and I think it's a one of a kind in East Africa. I haven't seen anybody else doing it. And how the Essentials for Everyone product works is we're partnering with NGOs that would typically go into the communities to distribute food. Yeah, so instead of going the route where you go into the community and you create chaos, yeah, the last time somebody did that in Kibera, there was a stampede and people died. So instead of going that route, yeah, and that route is one, it poses a security challenge. And then two, also, you're denying traffic from the shop. Yeah. So what we've done is we partner with the NGOs. They support the shop. Yeah. So that those same goods that they would have given out into the community now go to the shop, and then the families come and redeem those goods from the shop. So what this does is it still gives the support to the communities and to the families within the community, but it maintains the economic activity within the community. Yeah. So for me and for us, I think this was an excellent way to make sure that all these shops are, one, they're supported, and the economic activities within the communities are maintained despite the pandemic. So that's one of the main ways that the COVID-19 has affected our operations. Going back to the basics and saying, how do we keep on supporting the shops? Yeah, so that has been a really important question. And then what are those products that really people cannot be able to do without? And then how do we ensure that there's consistency? And how do we also guarantee that they also get a fair price, considering that, you know, a lot of people don't have as much money as possible.
All right.
Yeah.
So maybe just to generalize towards entrepreneurs in general, many businesses normally plan for risks, like let's say the common 5-year election cycle we normally have in Kenya, whereby we need to be prepared for that. But the COVID-19 came abruptly and changed the way we do business and give entrepreneurs something to ponder. So is there maybe an advice you have to entrepreneurs who are trying to plan for their business, how they can plan in the long term for such kind of risks, and not necessarily COVID-19, but generally risks in general, so that they can be able to mitigate them in their day-to-day operations?
Yes. I think for me, the one advice I'd give anyone, especially an entrepreneur, is know your numbers. Yeah.
Okay.
If you've never taken an accounting in a financial course, start. Take one. Yeah. Because the best way you can ever plan for your business, either short term, mid-term, and long term, is through your numbers. Yeah. Through financial modeling. And I'm not even saying, you know, like become the financial expert, but just understand the basic concepts of what a P&L is and what a balance sheet is and what your cash flow is. Yeah. Because with your financial modeling, you can be able to plan out 5 years from now, and what your numbers should tell you is 5 years from now, what's my best case scenario? What's my likely to happen scenario? And what's my worst case scenario? And your worst case scenario should cater for eventualities like the COVID-19. Yeah, nobody could have anticipated that. But the more you put down your numbers and the more you plan your worst case scenarios and what mitigation strategies you have for your worst case scenarios, then you kind of, you know, cushion yourself around some of these situations. And then the other one is basically, you know, your cash flow management. How are you managing your cash flow on a day-to-day basis? What's your run rate? Yeah. And I like one of the things that I really, really like what we've done with Sokowatch is the core role of the country CEO is that the country CEO is the P&L owner. So what the CEO really just focuses on is making sure that we're protected from a financial perspective. Yeah, not the fundraising, but the money that we have today. How are we spending it, and how are we making sure that this money is going to last us, not just 2 months, not just 6 months, but a year from now, 2 years from now, and 3 years from now. But at the same time, how are we making sure that we're growing towards profitability? So if I was ever to give any entrepreneur an advice on how to plan for eventualities, is know your numbers. If you can't articulate your numbers, then you don't know your business.
All right, great point on the numbers. Now, just to move back on the customer acquisition, what will you advise just generally entrepreneurs on how they acquire customers and how they can keep their costs low, and maybe how do they integrate that with the current situation we are facing right now of COVID-19?
Yeah, so what I think technology has given all of us is that ability to, one, create platforms and create networks, and then quickly create also ripple effects. Yeah. So from a customer acquisition perspective, I would say the more you can get your customers to self-service, the likely chances you're building a sustainable model around yourself. And also, anything that self-service is very cost effective, because majority of the money that you need to spend is maybe doing a little bit of online advertising here and there, which is, it's a lot more cost effective than having to hire 10, 20 people. So whatever space you're in, what are the opportunities for businesses to be able to self-service themselves? Can they order or can they access your services through an app? Can they access your services through SMS? And SMS, I feel like it's one of the basic tools that are actually not appreciated enough. Everyone now can be able to send an SMS or can be able to tell somebody, please send me this SMS. Get people calling you as opposed to you calling them. And then also, utilize all these other social media platforms that are there, whether it's WhatsApp, whether it's Facebook, whether it's Instagram. I would say get people interacting with you versus you necessarily having to go out to interact with them.
I like that point of self-service because it ideally goes to emphasize the point that you can use technology to reach quite a number of people at the same cost, as opposed to using the direct sales approach, whereby if I need to visit 10 customers, I need 10 people, and that to visit 100, I may need to increase to 100, thereby increasing your costs.
Yeah.
So I like that point of self-service. To competition now, will you say Sokowatch has any competitors, and what are you doing to help Sokowatch gain or have a competitive advantage, so to say?
Oh, of course, we have competitors. We have quite a number of interesting competitors. And what I really, really appreciate about the competition is that they're constantly keeping us on our toes. So I wouldn't talk about our competition, but what we are constantly doing to just make sure we are, staying ahead of our competitive advantage is one of our main values is unlocking potential. Yeah, and unlocking potential within the teams, but more importantly, unlocking potential for our customers. Yeah, and so that's why I was explaining our multi-tier thronged approach when it comes to the customer. So step one was, how do we get you access to your essential goods and services? Yeah, so we unlocked that door. And then the second door was, how do we get you access for growth? Yeah, and then we unlocked that door through our financial services. And then the third thing came to, how do we help the customer also unlock the, their health issues, their health services issues? And then we unlock that. Then the next step will obviously be, what else are our customers facing? What troubles are they facing that we can be able to unlock? And I think that's one of the best value added advantage that we've been able to do, that a lot of our competitors haven't yet caught up with us. Yeah, getting much, much deeper into the life of the customers that we are serving, as opposed to growing thin. Yeah, so we do try grow wide, but as wide as we grow, we're also trying to get deeper and deeper and deeper into the customers. Yeah, what I always say is, when our customers grow, we grow. So always making sure that we are aligning our mission to the customer's mission.
Maybe before I go to my next question, I can see someone asked here, how can students plug into your brand ambassador program? I believe you mentioned it as one of your ways that which you can reach new customers.
Yeah. So we do. It's advertised on the website.
All right.
So just go to sokowatch.com. On the careers, there's brand ambassadors for Kenya.
All right. I believe
And I think, sorry, and I think Tanzania is also doing it. So there's brand ambassadors for Kenya, brand ambassadors for Tanzania. Hopefully, Uganda, Rwanda also get on board. But that's one of the ways the students can be able to plug in.
all right. I believe, Ivy, that answers your question. And to Wendy, who is asking, what do you think about having a business plan before starting any business, considering uncertainties that may come around in the process, and maybe you haven't figured out everything?
That's a good question. With business, sorry?
Maybe another way to put it in terms of,
Yeah.
so that you can align it to the customer, winning customers. How sure are you the business plan you have will be suitable for customers, or whether you'll gain any customers?
What I think about and how I think about business plans, your business plan is not, well, like any other plan. Yes, it's a plan, but it's your thought process on how your business is supposed to work. Yeah. So how I approach my business plan is me putting down my thoughts on paper and articulating them, and then coming back and reading them and seeing, okay, how am I implementing this? And then how am I adapting? Yeah. So in a lot of situations, even when I started out, by the time I finished writing one business plan, by the end of it, things have already changed. So there was never a particular point where I said I had figured everything out, or my business plan was complete. So my business plan was consistent. I was always updating my business plan almost on a monthly basis, because things are always changing. Yeah. So I don't think you can ever get to a point where I say, I've completely figured out my business plan. It's done. Now let's get into this. Yeah. I would recommend start where you're at and keep putting all those thoughts down on paper, and then keep changing or adapting them as they change. So bringing back the conversation to customer acquisition, customers changing is a good thing. Yeah. Because when customers change, they give you an even, a new opportunity. Taking an example, what's happening with us is we started out with giving customers access to essential goods and services, but they changed. They got to a point and said, okay, we love that you deliver this to us and you deliver it for free, but I now want to grow. Yeah. How are you going to be able to solve me? So that, opened another door for us. And then they got to a point and said, I'm closing my shop because I don't have money. How are you going to help me? That opened another door for us. So really, to answer the question is, embrace the changes that customers bring, because now those changes are where the opportunities actually lie.
I believe we haven't talked about pricing, and pricing is quite an important part of the business process. So maybe how, specifically to Sokowatch, how have you priced your products? Is it in terms of cost? You're going for the cost differentiation, or is it value addition? And how do you ensure that price doesn't chase away potential customers? And maybe you can touch on discounts, because some customers want discounts from the onset. How do you manage that, or avoid that, so as not to dilute the value of your business value that you're providing?
Yeah, I think that's another really good question, especially for the fast-moving consumer goods space, because in our space, price is very volatile. You can wake up one day, the price of sugar is one, then the next day, it's completely gone the other way. How we're trying to solve that is consistency. Yeah. And when I say consistency, is a lot of competition and competitors try and play the price wars. Yeah. The price war, it benefits the retailer in the short term, but long term it doesn't benefit anyone, because now you mess up the market. So what our pricing strategy has always been is, we will be consistent, and we will be consistent based on what the market price is. Yeah. So if the the manufacturers and the supplier has set this as the market price, we will match the market price. We will not be cheaper, i.e. we will not try and undercut the market, and we will not be try and get greedy and, you know, increase our prices to make more margin. So as much as possible is always to be on the market price. And with time, customers are also learning that about us, and, you know, it's building that confidence within them, because they know tomorrow, if, you know, things go haywire, Sokowatch still have me because they've been consistent. Yeah, so that's one of the things that I would say has really informed our pricing strategy. And then just going back to, again, customer acquisition is removing the relationship from a transactional perspective. Yeah, this customer, if they know that you see them as how much money, you know, you're getting from them, they will leave you when somebody, you know, comes and is cheaper. So how do we, you know, make sure that they feel valued? And I think you asked the question on loyalty. Yeah, how do we make sure they feel valued? How do we, you know, what do we give back to them? I think one of the really good things that we've done around also the COVID-19 period is we were part of a conglomerate of companies called the Project Safe Hands, where we're distributing free essential products. So free soap, free sanitizer, making sure communities had access to water. So being able to participate in such programs and bringing those programs to your customer, because now they're like, oh, okay, during this period, Sokowatch gave us free soap to just make sure that, you know, we are in line with all the measures that were being put in place. And we're also giving back the soap to our communities. Yeah. So constantly shifting that conversation and constantly shifting that relationship away from the transaction to actually where the relationship lies, and constantly, you know, focusing on what is the value that I promised this customer that I'm going to give them, and am I actually delivering that value?
Right. There's a question from the audience on financing. I guess financing is quite a big part of building the business, and it's something that quite it bothers a lot of entrepreneurs around here, or everywhere in the world, so to say. So the question basically is, how did you acquire funds to scale your operations, especially outside Kenya? And maybe to put it in a view, in the customer acquisition view, would you say that the revenue that you are gaining from customers helped you build the business, or there were other sources of financing that helped you scale the business, especially with growing it outside of Kenya?
Okay. So yeah, that's a good question. I think as a company, we have been very lucky. We have been very lucky because we have been able to raise quite a bit of funding from international investors. But even before we got to the funding bit, there was a lot of groundwork that was done. So the history of Sokowatch is actually very humble. Yeah, it's very humble. Sokowatch started distributing chewing gum. Yeah, so it was chewing gum, and it was being distributed in backpacks with people running around from shop to shop. Yeah, so it was very tough, and it was very difficult, and it was very challenging at the very beginning. But what we did really, really well is we got resilient people. Yeah? And by resilient people, I mean, we got a lot of young people. Yeah, we got the youth, and there were youth from the communities. So it was a lot of young people from Kibera, young people from Kawangware, who nobody would have ever looked at as a resource. Yeah, and we said, you know what, look, here's an opportunity. We want to be able to distribute all these products to all these people. How do we, you know, do it together? And the other really important value that I would like to highlight for Sokowatch, or from Sokowatch, is ownership. Yeah, so every single employee in Sokowatch is an owner, and it's one of those values that you don't need to see written anywhere on the wall to know that people live it. So everyone is an owner. Everybody has stock within the company. So everybody contributes as if they're the owner, and it started from day one. And that gave us that additional edge because we were able to scale very quickly to people that would alternatively have not gotten those opportunities, and we made them owners. So even before we got to the funding, the humble beginnings, and bringing all these different players together, enabled us to be able to increase our customer coverage, and then increase our products. And then that's when we were able to come to the table with investors and say, this is the proof of concept, and this is what we've been able to do. How can you be able to help? And then that's when we were able to raise a bit of funds.
All right. I guess for me, maybe back to the pricing point before I come back to the funding issue. For me, I guess what I can add on to that in terms of pricing is that my business is more of value-based rather than calculating your cost of the cost of the product you have, then adding a markup. So I guess I can advise entrepreneurs out there who maybe are in design business or a service business that they really can't quite put a finger on their pricing, is that they should maybe try and assess what their value is and what the value they are providing. Because for me, it took me a long time to realize that the value I am providing to customers is time, not the design work. And once you understand that time is what you're giving other people, you'll know how to price yourself. So I guess it boils down to what value it is you're giving to the customer or your potential customer. Therefore, you can price yourself accordingly. This is especially to those in the service industry, like photography, design work, videography, and whatnot, because I get a lot of entrepreneurs who struggle with that quite a lot. And further, I think you should also not be afraid of saying no to some customers, especially those who want to really discount your value, and therefore diluting the differentiating factor you have on your business from the rest. So I think very many businesses are still afraid, or when you're young, or as a young business, you're afraid to say no to some, because it's like we have this mentality of you can't say no to money. So you should be able to say no to some of the clients that will dilute your value. In terms of funding, I recently discovered that it really depends on what you want to achieve for your business. So if you want to achieve growth, you'll really sacrifice other things so that you can achieve growth, especially how much money you put back in your pocket will determine how further you can grow. Or if you don't want to grow as fast, it allows you to put much more money in your pocket. So it depends with what you really want to achieve. And growth is not necessary for every business, so to say. Some businesses can be designed to scale as big as regional, and some can satisfy you where you are right now. I guess that's what I have to add on to that. So there's a question here on how can a startup convince a client, especially when you do not have a portfolio, to get customers?
Is that, I'm guessing that's somebody from web design?
Yes, this is regards to a business model like the website and app building.
Yeah, do you want to take that one, Calvin?
All right, I can take that one first. Okay, for me, what I did when I was starting without a portfolio, what I did is use my portfolio. What do I mean by that? We built our own website. We built our own brand first. Using that brand that we built for Pulsar, we were able to convince other customers that we can do it. Because if it is a website you want to build, your website should speak for itself in the first place before you can convince another customer that we can do this website for you. And then from there, you can start with one or two clients. You'll always have, even if you'll do it for as a pro bono, just to gain that portfolio. But with around 5 clients, you should be able to have a good enough portfolio to showcase to be able to gain business. I guess that's what I have to say. I don't know if you have anything to add.
Yeah, what I would add is at the very beginning, things are tough. Yeah, you really do have to put in a lot of effort. Don't ever get fooled that things happen overnight. It's a lot of work. It really is a lot of work. Especially if you're in the web design space, you will have likely chances to put in the extra hours and build the portfolio. You might actually have to work for free for 1 or 2 people to just have that proof of concept. And you have to keep talking about it and tell as many people as possible. Yeah, going back to the conversation about technology. Yeah, right now I see so many marketplaces up and Instagram. If you're not the kind of person that is outgoing and you're comfortable around social media, then partner with somebody that can be able to do that for you, because I've seen a lot of people actually grow quite a number of businesses just utilizing the power of social media. And I would say, get comfortable with the fact that it's going to be challenging. Then you will have to put in quite a bit of hours and extra time at the very beginning and utilize as much digital platforms as possible.
Yes. Just to add on the point of time, like Wendy, to know that it took me around 10 years to get to where I am. So it's really a long ball game, not something you'll hack in 1 year or 2. You need to be really patient in building that portfolio. And also, our model is referral. So once you do a good job for one customer, they will also refer you to another customer. And maybe just to add on to that, it is important that your first customers are the right customers. So what do I mean by that? I mean that you need to get customers that are priced right. So if, let's say, you are designing a website for amount X, it means that customer will refer you to clients that are of a similar category. So if you start with the very low-end clients, you'll find yourself stuck in like a vicious cycle of always getting low-end clients through and through. So you need to always be on the lookout on how you price your product so that you can be able to get the most appropriate referrals in your business. So maybe to back to the pandemic, what would you advise entrepreneurs with direct-facing customers, especially the strategies that they should have in place, especially that can assist them in acquiring customers during this time for customer-facing businesses?
Okay, that's a good question as well. Top of my head, I would segment the customers. Yeah, segment between, again, who are my loyal customers that if I reduce the touch base, I will likely chances not lose them. Yeah, and I can still be able to make a follow-up call here and there, and still have that guaranteed business. Or how can I improve the service that I'm having with this customer without necessarily having me put in so much effort. So going back to self-service. And then the second thing is, who are my prospects? And a lot of people always think that majority of the customers you need to spend time with is your loyal customers. Actually, the majority of customers you need to spend time with is your prospects, because you need to graduate them to your loyal so that you actually spend less time with them. Yeah. So anyone with customer, facing clients, who are your prospects? These are the people that you need to spend time with. And then all the social distancing, all the measures that we are putting in place, can you be able to practice them and still be able to maintain your customer facing clientele? If it's a customer that's comfortable with doing an online call, then by all means do that. If it's a customer that still requires you to be able to meet with them, then meet with them, but make sure that you're protecting yourself and you're protecting the customer. I wouldn't say there's one blanket answer to this question. I would say evaluate it case by case and figure out what's the best mode for this particular client. Going back to don't let your interactions with your customer be transactional. Let them be relationship. Yeah, knowing this customer. This is a customer that, you know, if they don't see me, then they will not buy. Then build a structure around that customer to make sure that you're capable of maintaining that. And then the last group of customer is definitely your smaller customers that, you know, a phone call here and there, an email, you know, a WhatsApp message will still get you the business. I would say segment it, figure it out case by case based on the different customers that you have. What do you need to do at what particular point?
All right.
Yeah.
Maybe just to touch on one of the channels that you've mentioned quite a bit, WhatsApp.
Yeah.
Maybe you can shed some light on. Personally, I've never used it for business, so maybe you can shed some light on how it can impact customer acquisition, how people can take advantage of that channel, because it's quite a bit of a direct channel, and I believe it has its own advantages to certain businesses. Maybe you can shed some light for the audience.
Yeah. So again, good question. So what we did with WhatsApp, so two things. Yeah. You can be able to get people to order or place orders or through WhatsApp. Yeah. So question is, where do those orders get channeled? Yeah. So, and I do it myself. Yeah, I constantly, you know, go on Instagram and see somebody has put their phone number there, and I will save the number and go to WhatsApp and WhatsApp them. Yeah. So just adapting to what people are doing anyway. Yeah. So for us, it's, are there figuring out, are there customers that would be comfortable, you know, placing their orders or interacting with us through WhatsApp? And how do we build a process and a system around them to support that behavior anyway? And then the second thing that we've done well is the community of doers. Yeah, but in this particular case, we did have to get consent from the customers. Yeah, and we're very clear that we're forming a community of customers or doers, and this is the purpose. This is what we will do, and this is what we will not do. So setting the expectations also right, so that by the time a customer is opting into the community, they know what to expect. Yeah, and making sure that you're holding everybody accountable so that it just doesn't become another platform of noise. Yeah, so I would say anything to do with WhatsApp or anything to do with online, you actually have to define what your strategy is and what your etiquette should be, because most people get annoyed with WhatsApp because of the etiquette around how people handle WhatsApp, because they become noise. So, and that's not what you want. It has to be a value addition to the customer. And if it's taking away time and value from that customer, then you're taking away from your business. So you can't just jump into it without a plan. It also has to have a plan. I think my closing remarks around customers is, one, always try and figure out how can you unlock the potential for your customer. Yeah, going back to retention, yeah, your repeat business guarantee is almost as good as new business. Yeah, so how can you always make sure that the customers that you have, that you're serving them the best way possible? And within that same customer, are there also opportunities for growth? Yeah, the amount of money you spend trying to find a new customer, can you be able to refocus that resource and make sure that this customer is, you know, growing? Because when they grow, you grow. And then the second thing when it comes to customer acquisition, and I've repeated this a few times, is drive away your relationship from a transactional way. Yeah, the minute you know, a customer feels like you only see them as money, they will jump to the next ship. Yeah, so drive that loyalty, drive those conversations, and listen to them. Listen to your customers when they tell you, I have a problem here. Solve the problem and come back and give them feedback. Yeah, this is what happened. Yeah, and I feel like that's where most entrepreneurs miss out an opportunity on, is coming back to the customer and giving them feedback. Even if it's a customer that has long left you, yeah, but you went and asked them, and you ask them, why did you leave me? And they tell you, this is why you left me. We all just disappear into the sunset. Yeah, what I always say is, once the customer tells you why they left you, go and solve that problem and come back and say, thank you for your feedback, we solved this problem, and leave it at that. Don't even try and recruit them back, just give them the feedback. Yeah.
Yes.
I would say, to summarize those two, figure out how to retain and unlock potential within your customers, and draw away your relationship from your customer from a transactional standpoint.
Right. For me, I'd say I once read something from Sunny Bindra. He normally writes the Sunday Nation column about customer service. I believe he mentioned that in Kenya, generally, very, very many businesses suffer from poor customer service. And the easiest way for you to win a customer is just by providing superior customer service. So my advice to entrepreneurs will be always see tomorrow with your customer by providing excellent or above par service to them, as opposed to considering it as a one-time transaction. As you've mentioned, you should move away from the transaction aspect of it and focus on more on building a relationship with the customer, so that you can be able to get more value out of them in the long term. So I believe that is my comment on winning customers. I believe once you do that with customer service, you have won very many clients over, and you have basically a simple competitive advantage